Hey everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins. Hey guys.
And today, well, we're looking at something that we've already seen and kind of discussed a little bit, but we've got it a little more fleshed out. Samuel, why don't you just tell everybody what we're doing today and how we got this fantastic model for
Stuart,
today.
if you remember, Discovery, that brand new Star Trek show, they released that behind-the-scenes video, and we loved it, didn't we? It was very interesting.
Did.
And what was there special in that thing that we jumped on?
Well, the thing that we love, of course, ships. There was a new wireframe model of a ship that we saw rotating.
Which you can see here.
That was not this new Discovery design, despite a lot of people thinking that.
Yeah, weird.
But
now, well, we did an episode. You guys loved it. Awesome. This is a full follow-up. But we haven't just got the single wireframe, guys. We've done some behind-the-scenes digging. We've done some working with talented people. Stuart, go straight away to the next picture. It's in 3D. Now, that's not the real model. First of all, this is by, as you might have remembered, the name Barry Chapman. He is one of our wonderful English 3D modelers. He went ahead and made this without telling us, and then at the end step, I helped coordinate a few little things based on what we both thought. So he made it in 3D for us to do this follow-up show. He's even on holiday right now, or when we film it. So we want to get just done before, and I did the convert and I did the rig. So reanalysis. But what is the most interesting thing about this episode, Stuart? And we'll see that in the second half.
We actually have some behind-the-scenes factoids on sizes for this ship. So we've got the length, width, everything from somebody that's working on the production. Mm-hmm. And so we've made this model to scale.
And it's pretty interesting, and you'll see a lot of these shots. So while this is not the real model, and the details, grain of salt... but if you go straight over to the next picture, you can see how similar Barry made it. I mean, I'm so impressed by the shapes and things. I mean, the details might be a little bit, because we haven't seen the ship, but the shapes are right, the feel is right, and the scale, at least the current iteration of the ship, is real. So Stuart, I mean, first of all, what do you think of it in 3D, and now it's a different perspective. What do you think of this coming to life?
Well, it looks good. First of all, it is skinned kind of a TOS style, which I like, which suits the era that it's in. So I'm on board for that. Whether that's going to be that way in the show, I'm very dubious of this, but yes. I like it.
Barry did an interesting mix. He did a TOS-ish colour scheme, but a whole pattern of the NX01. So it's an interesting in-between step, because it would be somewhat in between. And we have heard from people in the production, and we have seen in the Discovery itself, at least Alpha, they have glowing red Bassards and blue warp grills. So this was the extrapolation based on what we can see, the Bassards and grills. What do you think about Barry's way about this?
No, it's fantastic. The grilling actually is very reminiscent of what we see in TOS, even though there's no blue glow behind it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm on board with this. Now, did he take some liberties here? Because I see the bridge module, which is not really on the wireframe.
He loves canon. There should be a bridge. I mean...
and to be honest, I got to say this, because I know people might be noticing it. I noticed it right now. The struts are a little bit differently shaped at the front, and they're not... It's not that... One part that sticks out is not as low as I think it should be. But I mean, it looks great. But
yeah, for like a 6-day model job, with a family and spare time, he did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about this is that Discovery is an interesting part of Trek history, and while the only part of that history we ever saw was the TOS Constitution class, and also we have to look at the Cage iteration because that's the same timeline it was in. That was the first Enterprise ever made, and they had a limited budget and things, but the other parts of the fleet, they might have other designs, other feels, visible blue glow, nacelles, all these things. But you've got to remember that the NX01 ships, they had the blue grills, they had visible coils. So if the ship is designed somewhere between the two, which it would be, then it's very likely that will still remain in some form with some ships. So I'm intrigued at how much Barry actually put the grills here. I think they maybe should have been less, a la Discovery herself. But I like it. Yeah, well, I'll bring some up in a minute, but let's go to the next picture. Nice little 3/4. Now we're getting different perspectives because it's new. What do you think of how the ship feels from sort of a 3/4?
Well, first of all, I love the name of the ship that you put on there. The USS Eves. NCC 1259. Very cool.
Yes. Gotta love Mr. John Eaves.
I like the feel of the ship overall. There are a few aspects of it that are a little blocky and stuff to me, but I mean, I have no issues with that. I mean, that's how the wireframe looked, so, you know. I'm just going to zoom in on a detail here. Oh, he does have like a hangar bay door at the front of that.
Yes, he made sure to put in hangars, which I think is a very natural and interesting place to put it. I think we did discuss possible through hangars, so I guess he actually watched our show. Yay, Barry.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think what I see really is it's not a new style of ship. It really isn't. It's got, it is a centaur. It isn't a Kira without a roll bar. It's a very familiar version of the shape. It's just got an X feel with the pontoons and how Barry's done the hull. So I really look at it and I think, well, yeah, it's super normal. Is that weird?
It's not weird. No, I see where you're coming from, totally. I do like the tie-ins. I mean, a lot of the hull structure here is very reminiscent of what we've seen from Discovery so far in that early teaser. And then you got the NX-01 tie-in or the Columbia tie-in, with the sensor dish at the front with the two antenna.
Yep.
So I think this is a nice progression. And like you said, I'm sure Starfleet experimented with different kinds of nacelles and things. So to say the shapes for the nacelles are a little too advanced, I agree with that in a way because I've said that myself. But at the same time, who knows what's going on with different designs. They're testing out different things at this point, trying to go for higher warp speeds and more functionalities. So
I mean, maybe the move to the refit style engines, that was not the first time they tried that. I mean, it seems a bit strange to suddenly alter your design style after how many years of using only circles-ish. Well, maybe there was a TOS early, the Phase 2 brand, the in-between step. And that was, a somewhat tested, half used, and someone said, "Oh no, we're going to make that the primary." One thing I really like about how Barry did this is that the basards are slits inside the front, and they're on either side, so they're very sort of minimal, and it gives it a really refined and also blocky feeling. Refined in the sense there's not much of it, so implying high technological backing to the lack of need of having it be huge surface area, but blocky because it's all the rectangle shapes. What do you think?
Well, again, it ties into the refit style engine with the they didn't have glowing bazards at the front, but they had that same kind of two slits with a thing in the center dividing it. So, yeah, I think that's a nice combination of both the refit style and the TOS style with the glowing elements in there.
Now, is it worth? And actually, let's go right to the next picture because it shows the angles a bit more. I mean, you tell me your first impressions of this angle, and I'll say what I was about to say. And yes, the shuttle bay and the TOS links there, which I quite like.
Yeah. This has a very Centaur vibe to me from this angle. The ship doesn't look that big, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, no.
But we're going to get into size in a second. Yeah. But I got to say, that it's a huge hangar door. Anyway, it doesn't look big. It looks like a small ship. Maybe one or two shuttles could maybe fit in there. Side by side.
What happened is Barry made the geometry first, and then obviously because he has to scale it, we told him the sizing so he could make those tweaks, and he modified how the engines were to give it the correct height, and so he modified the proportions so it would fit better. So that's what you see here. My take on this, and again, we haven't got to size yet, guys. If it's the size it looks like it is, that's very natural. I can't go into more detail. Can I damn it tease? But no, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with this being a larger fighter carrier because imagine if that was 2-3 floored, which it looks like it could be because of the windows, all on decks, and then warps in. The whole secondary hull is a hangar bay. I mean, we have not seen that as a functional iteration on ship design yet. It's like take the NX idea of having just a primary hull and then the engine, take it one step further. Primary hull, just the shuttle bay. It can throw out the 20 shuttles maybe of of the Kelvin without being a bit ridiculous. What do you think about that as a possible role for the ship?
It's very interesting, which I never considered before.
Neither had I until I said it.
Well, like I said, judging by this picture and even by the windows, I don't see this ship as being overly big. I don't see it being much bigger than the NX-01.
And again, windows are extrapolation.
Yes.
Now, I will say I love the impulse, how those are placed. Very minimal, but very right.
Yes. I would have preferred they be red, but...
Well, advanced technology. Plus, I might have not lit them properly. I don't know. The next shot is an underside, which... Now, this is the very theoretical. This is full Barry extrapolation, because there is nothing to go on, literally. So we'll just head on this briefly, but it gives you a different perspective of how thin the nacelles must be for the shots to work. I mean, what do you think of how it could look?
Again, that looks like a very advanced version of like a Miranda-style nacelle, like next generation kind of era.
Which looks very cool. Yeah, it's a very cool design.
I do like the sleekness of it. Now, I got to say, we have speculated, we have mentioned that there's a possibility there's a time travel element to the first episode or whatever. This could be a ship from the future. People have speculated that ever since first seeing it because it looks too advanced for the era. But, I mean, that would be cool, and I have no problem with that because Star Trek is about time travel. It's a trope they use quite often, and I'm sure it would make for an excellent beginning to a series to have something happen that maybe explains certain elements. But so if this is a ship from the future, I'm all on board. If it's the ship from the time period, that's fine too. Like we said, they're experimenting with different styles of engines and ship designs. And if it's the size that I assumed it was based on the first glances at it, just a little bit longer than the NX-01 perhaps, maybe like half a ship longer. Again, I would be on board with that totally. This is a very good extrapolation of the bottom, in my opinion. So I think Barry did a fantastic job. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you very much.
But with going on absolutely nothing to go on, I'd love to see what the final version looks like for sure, and just compare that to this in the future.
Well, yeah, I want to jump back to the, for us it's switched to 3.5, comparing the two. In terms of advancement, I mean, it is fair to say this would fit into... It's interesting, it's a retro advanced look. It's got the NX styling to a T, and more, I say, than the Akira. It's got more of that, and again, Barry's extrapolation to be fair, but back to the wireframe, I would say it's more of an NX vibe than an Akira vibe, based on the pontoons, and yet the engines are so much looking more advanced theoretically, so... It does certainly present more advanced, potentially, and you said I hadn't even considered time travel until we read the comments on our video, saying, well, it looks like that sort of ship, and I think it's very possible. Most of the whole podcast about, is this the ship from the future that changes the timeline? Does it come back and the crew's dead and does whatever? I mean, another alternate divergent timeline. Who knows? It would certainly be an interesting catalyst.
I think it should be noted too that a lot of people have speculated this is the Shinzu, the only other ship that we've heard of existing in this universe, and that's been jumped on right away as soon as they saw another ship in the teaser trailer. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. It is certainly very interesting and could be the case, and we will know eventually.
Yep.
But I just thought I'd mention that it's been speculated that there's quite a few new ships being designed for this show, so to automatically assume that is kind of...
Well, there's no reason to assume it is, except the fact that we've been given this new ship design and given a name. There's no actual correlation between the two. It's just because we got one of each, which is fine. We call it the wireframe ship, Discovery wireframe ship. That's all we have, and now it's the Eves. But anyway, Stuart, now you mentioned scale. That is what is interesting about this ship. We've seen the Centaur, and then the Ares, Rax now, because it is a very similar design aesthetic, and all these ships fit very neatly into their time periods. A saucer is normally a conventional size, and when you look at, say, the TOS era, the NX-01 saucer is actually the same size as the Connie, the Constitution class saucer. Now, a lot of fans didn't realise that, but when you put them together, they are. That's because the extra room, which is the advancement, which is the evolution, the exploration element, is a secondary hull. You take all the science labs, all the stuff you don't need to bog up the room, put it in the secondary hull, and now all the primary hull, it's actually a lot of space for quarters, for primary things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you take the swimming pool and the bowling alley out of the saucer section, put it in the secondary hull. That's a lot of room, guys.
And water storage, I mean, that tank is pretty... Anyway. And you look at this ship, I mean, just the wireframe, and Barry again did a great job at the wireframe. Taking the saucer as the example, a saucer would not... if the saucer is huge, that exponentially makes everything else huge, and the engines are already big. The Constitution class engines are big as well. And the shuttle bay door surely gives an indication of the scale, and there's things you would think that would give an indication. But again, we've now got the scaling of the ship. So, Stuart, you take us into this picture, and you let me know what you first think, because I made these. So, take it away.
I know. And I've seen them too, guys, but here we go. Next picture. There, of course, we see the Constitution class ship.
And the cage version, just for accuracy's sake.
And we also see the Discovery, which, based on like a deck plan that was done pretty much right after somebody saw that, compared it to the Connie, and we were told that it's fairly close.
Yeah.
So that's an estimation, I'm sure, on Samuel's part as far as the Discovery goes.
Yeah.
But fairly accurate, I would assume, based on the era. But then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, Mr. Wireframe, what are you doing? Because we got actual measurements for it, and it's way bigger than we anticipated.
And what's interesting is that we had the measurements before I made these, so we both heard the number.
Yeah.
But seeing it, totally different ball game. And these are, again, perspective. The left-hand side are the NX-01 era, pre-NX, Warp 4 or below. First Warp 5, Pride of Starfleet. And then Discovery must come before the Constitution class, presumably around the same time, we think a little before, maybe, whatever. Or maybe just after. And then the Constitution class, which is at the same time. We know there is a Constitution class around there. This is the timeline where there is. So that is the size.
The Constitution is also state-of-the-art.
Heavy cruiser, a lot of people raring to go. And so a ship that is going to be older, because it's not going to be the newest ship. I mean, why show the newest ship we designed? It's an older ship than the other ones, and yet it's the biggest ship. Yes. Now, I guess I have to say we had this exact same discussion when it comes to the JJ verse, the Kelvin. It was huge.
Yeah.
We're not going to look at that though, because Prime Timeline. This is confirmed a Prime Timeline show, and while initially they said the JJ verse was divergent off the Prime Timeline, subsequent books, Michael Denise and Simon Pegg have both said that it's a separate timeline where
that
things
was
are
divergent
diverged.
Before the Narada incident.
Yeah, so we're not going to include the Kelvin in this, even though we probably should, but we're going to stick with 100% Prime.
Yeah.
Stuart, obviously it's big, but what do you think scaling? Show me your professional opinion on this. And again, don't take the details as canon, because it's Barry's extrapolation, but shapes and scaling.
Scaling automatically makes me jump to the fact that this is like a ship from the future.
Oh god, yeah.
Also, the way those nacelles are designed is something that people have been pointing out since they first saw it. It's too advanced for the era, and I get that. But at the same time, it could have been experimental designs, fine. But to have this size upscale like this, compared to the heavy cruisers, the Constitution class, which are state-of-the-art heavy cruisers. So what is this then, a dreadnought? You called it a carrier. I'm fine with that. If it's actually a carrier for some TOS fighter ships. But the design doesn't speak carrier to me either.
See, I'm not... The scaling is horrendous, but it's the engines that bother me the most. Because for one of the most advanced ships of the time, fast warp, advanced, everything we need, Constitution class, that is pushing the limits of technology. And then to have a nacelle that's bigger than your entire flagship design, not the flagship, but flagship design, it just says, it boggles my mind. If the nacelle was half the size, and I've done an extrapolation what I think the scale should be, which Stuart hasn't seen, a little bit later on, the size of the saucer, I don't know if you agree with me here, Stuart, but I'm fine with a stupidly big saucer, at least in this era, for a specific role. Like a fighter carrier, that would sort of make sense. But to have the engines be so just ginormous, put in perspective, what those warp coils, the engineering team who've pushed the boundaries to make warp coils that fit into this Constitution class, they've had to build them 3 times as big for this other ship that is not as famous, we never hear of, we never see of again, it's not in any of our historical records, hasn't made an impact, is less advanced.
Yeah, the technology aspect of it, like you said, the huge warp coils, doesn't really work for me. Like their warp cores are like bigger than like I don't know, the the entire nacelle of the Constitution class ship. More room in the saucer makes a lot of sense. We've even discussed that with the Kelvin, for different mission profiles and colony ships or whatever. So yeah, the size of the saucer is fine, but the technology of the nacelles just I don't. Yeah.
And the feel of the ship. I mean, this sort of design speaks to a quick assault ship or scout ship or frigate. And so you wouldn't think it'd be this big. I mean, if you imagine a space battle, Klingon D7s, which are already a little bit smaller than the Connie, and then this ship warps in. I mean, it's going to absolutely. I mean, the Klingons are thinking, why have we built such small ships to fight the. Why have we built them against the heavy cruisers? We shouldn't build them as big as the scout ships.
I'm beginning to wonder if the numbers we got were actually accurate. Or if they got converted wrong somewhere in the process.
Okay, I'm sure some of you guys are saying that, but we got them from an inside source who we know had access to numbers, who even drew us a little diagram, and so... Now, yes. So that's my problem with this. Now, what do you think about it compared to the Discovery itself? Because that's meant to be the hero ship of this tale, which in itself does sort of fit.
That's the next thing I was going to say. Why have it that much bigger than the actual hero ship? I don't know. Because you would think the hero ship needs to be like one of the ships of the line, one of the ships that's prominent in the fleet.
Unless it isn't, and it's the rust bucket that we potentially said.
This is true, but even then it's like the oddball, the odd duck. It's a special ship for that very reason. But to have something like totally dwarf it right away is kind of odd to me.
Well, the fact is that this is bigger than this era. I mean, clearly, hands above. But the next picture, we're going to push forward the timeline a bit. Now, this is it compared. Look, Stuart, it's still bigger than the Enterprise B, which is, 70, 60, 50 years later?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the actual...
It's quite a long time.
Yeah.
It's from 50. It's from Kirk being lieutenant to him being an past admiral, so
yes.
Quite a decent career size. What do you think about this? And this is the Constitution class production model, which was done after the Cage model. So this version is a more advanced ship than this ship, because it's the production version.
It still doesn't work. It obviously doesn't work for me. The size is wrong. The size is just wrong for the era. So are some of the styling cues that we see. Which again, and hopefully story-wise, this will make sense. They tie it in somehow. It's a ship from the future doing something, or there's some kind of temporal anomaly. I don't know. Maybe this ship is the whole reason for the Discovery's first mission. This was...
Ooh. What if it's a Terran Empire ship? Because they got the Constitution classes first.
Yes.
So I would say, and the Vulcan ships are so much larger. So and look at the design, how aggressive it is. I mean, why wouldn't you build a huge ship? So they find this ship. It's from the same timeline as the same time point as the Mirror Universe.
Yeah, because that always confused me about In Mirror Darkly. How they got the Defiant, and then in Mirror, there's no advancements on the Constitution class ships at all.
Yeah.
But that was the original Mirror Universe timeline, I guess. So now this could be the new. Wow, that'd be an interesting tie-in, and I would be very, very happy with that kind of explanation.
One discussion I actually had with my mum about this: the idea of evolution of technology. There is not per se a direct link between time to size. Smartphones got bigger, or phones got bigger, smaller. So, the Enterprise F doesn't, the official canon when we eventually get one, does not need to be bigger than the E per se. It doesn't need to be. It could be a more refined, smaller ship. Where I take this image from and I modified, look at evolution of Enterprises, there's a very natural progression. It's just slight jump. It's a perfect evolution. Now, even if that is one class of ship, it's still every ship after the refit is a flagship. the pride and joy, what theoretically should be the biggest ship of the fleet based on that as well. So we can see the nature of evolution of technology. To some, again, there are exceptions to every rule, but there's some indication of how it goes. So for me, if this ship is is where you see it in this timeline, pre-TOS, post-NX, the idea that the teams of Starfleet built this ship, and they did not build a bigger ship until the Enterprise C, that many years later. And again, we might not have seen, the Connie might have been a really, really small ship. Okay, fine. Very strange thing to say, given how small the Reliant is, the Centaur, the Constellation, everything in the Refit era. Nothing, the Excelsior was the huge, giant, big ship. That was the big step forward, and this is slightly bigger than the Excelsior as well, just a little bit, with the fins and things. To design a ship and build it to be bigger than anything for the next 50 years, it doesn't seem true to me. It doesn't seem like that would happen. And then to only build smaller ships. I mean, what do you think about that?
It goes back to the conversation we had with the Kelvin. The same kind of thing. Why would that ship be so much bigger than every other ship in the Prime universe? Especially the heavy cruisers. They're not called heavy cruisers just because willy-nilly.
And they weigh a lot.
They're heavy cruisers because they're one of the bigger ships in the fleet. They're not a dreadnought, mind you, which dreadnoughts are a little bit bigger.
Yep.
But they're still the heavy cruiser. They're the kick-ass ships.
Yep.
So for something like this that doesn't even look like a heavy cruiser design style,
nope,
to be that much bigger is, again, makes me think and hope that it's some kind of ship from the future or something, some kind of anomaly.
So now I think a lot of fans are saying that. So I went ahead and said, well, what if it is a ship from, because it looks 24th century roughly. The next picture, is it scaled compared to the 24th century fleet? What do you think about that? And does it now fit design-wise? And again, this is just the shapes, the facades, the glows, all those things are Barry extrapolations, but design-wise, what do you think now comparing to the 24th century design styles and sizes?
It seems like a nice step between Voyager and Star Trek Online design. The size of the engines are comparable to the Enterprise E. Same kind of ish styling. I mean, more like Star Trek Online styling, if you ask my opinion.
Or look at the Steamrunner. They're brickier.
Yeah.
There's some links to that.
Yeah. Now this does have the TOS skin on it that Barry gave it, so it kind of looks out of place here. I mean, if you put a TNG style skin on it, I think it would fit perfectly right in here. You wouldn't even know the difference. Maybe the roundness of the saucer needs to be tweaked a bit, as we know that they're more of an elongated style.
Well, again, I mean, I could have put the Akira in here, but there are some confusions about its exact size, so I thought I'd just go with the ones we know all the sizes for. And besides, it's a different role, so in the end, anyway. What's interesting about this design is that it does bend the rules, or at least the stylings of this era, going for a very small saucer, huge nacelles. That implies to me the Centaur design, very fast, edge of your territory, fast response vehicle, slim. It can go warp 9.9995 because and for a long time because it was really compressed. And the designers happened to be a fan of the NX and of the Akira and did a very retro styling.
The one thing that kind of throws me off, seeing it with these ships, is the length of those nacelles. They seem disproportionately long compared to the style of the body. The wireframe look that we first had of it, I didn't get that vibe.
Yes.
I don't know why that is. It just seems like they're an odd length, and they don't fit the style of design for pretty much any era, to be honest.
Well, again, Centaur, I think, they're very, very long nacelles. I mean, they are really pushing it.
Yeah. See, and that just raised an interesting storyline, which could be probable that this was some kind of experimental new warp breakthrough ship that does its thing and disappears, and the Discovery has to go find it. Or it could be that it is from the future, post-Voyager, experimental, ends up in the timeline that Discovery set in, and Discovery still has to go.
That's we're really going really far out here, based on a wireframe. We can't really take these things, but seeing it in comparison to this fleet, do you think this feels more at home here or in the previous shots?
With the texturing on the hull, the
Like,
previous
don't look at
charts-
that. Don't look at the
I know, but it's hard.
texturing.
It's hard. I think it fits more here. It fits more here, if that's the case.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Like, and I already said it. It almost fits more into like the Star Trek Online era.
Oh, sure. I could see this being there like that.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
modifications needed at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the scaling and all this, but I went ahead and I shrank the ship. I shrank it, put it back in the right era in its picture. So if you go to the next one, this is what I think. If this is the size we were given, I would be like, yes, okay. What do you think?
Yeah. Exactly. This is how I pictured it when I saw the wireframe. I'm thinking, yeah, it's about the NX-01 size, maybe a little bit longer than the NX-01. But as you got here, the Discovery is probably about the size of a Connie, just maybe a little bit bigger than a Connie from what we've speculated, perhaps slightly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this is probably the most accurate approximation of what it should have been.
Of the design style, like design plus form plus follow function plus timeline. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And the reason I did this way around is because I thought, obviously it felt like a faster ship, but if you made the Source the same size as the Constitution class and the NX, it'd actually be longer than the Connie. Just how it all peters out, so that didn't fit for me because the Connie should be the biggest ship and Discovery should be the biggest ship, especially how it's formatted. So I thought make it smaller, give it a smaller crew, fast response vehicle. Yes, the engines are very big, very different, but very unique to the other ships. I mean, they all have very different designs, sort of. So it's
this I like size-wise, and kudos to you. I think that's what it should be. Now, whether we got the wrong numbers or not, I highly doubt, but it's a possibility. It's a possibility.
I mean, they are quite far through in terms of pre-production. They should know all of the sizings of all the ships. They should. I mean, they could change them all at a dime, but every ship's designed and has a scale in mind, and they have a fleet chart at this point with all the ships put together to see the continuity. So I don't think it's going to be that far off. If they want to change it, please do.
Yes. Right, and so the last picture here is a very nice one we've already seen with the wireframe model and Barry's excellent model right beside it. You can see, very good job, Barry.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what it actually looks like on screen. Because the skinning of a 3D model is a very important thing, and he chose to do the TOS style, which, like I said, was throwing me off with the whole TNG fleet comparison. So it'd be interesting to see how it's textured.
So, yeah, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this. And again, grain of salt, pinch of salt, whatever. This was a fan-made model, or our wonderful Barry Chapman, part of our team. But as you can see, the shapes are right. We've got the right scaling. It's as close an idea as we can give you right now, and we wanted to make sure when we got the scaling to bring you something new, to have this discussion, because scaling does define a whole lot of the Trek lore. Why things are the size they are. It tells you about technology level. It tells you all these things that are interesting, especially when it fits into this great big tapestry, like I say about Star Trek. These engines, if they're this big, well, how does that make sense to the tapestry? If they're this big, they're more advanced. There's things you can say, and that's why I wanted to do this. But again, take it as a pinch of salt, a grain of salt. The show's not out yet. We could be looking back in a year and say, wow, this was the alpha numbers. But again, directly from production, this is as much as we know, and this is more than you guys know. So we feel proud to be able to give you new information, as we love to do here on Trekyards. And just a fun follow-up, because we had a lot of fun talking about the ship originally. So we really hope you enjoyed this. And again, thank you very much to Barry. Did an amazing job, and I hope you guys liked his extrapolation, because I like the grilling. I think I like how he did it. But yeah, that is it for this next special on Discovery.
It is, and this has got me thinking, and it's probably got you guys thinking a little bit.
Yes.
Is Discovery a reboot? Well, I think that warrants its own discussion, which we will do in the future.
Yes.
So anyway, guys, as always, please like the video. Don't forget to share it around. This Discovery talk has been generating a lot of buzz online, and there's a lot of people speculating, so we like to contribute to that, and Trekkies love to do that kind of stuff. So if you want to share it to somebody that might not have seen it, please do so. And in the meantime, always come back and check out more stuff from us, because every time we get a little bit of information, we're going to be here for you.
Yes, and we love Star Trek, clearly, and this is all for you guys, so hope you guys tune in and enjoy. If you want to support the show, please, there's two ways. Either go to our website, trekyards.com, and click that donate button, or the other way is our regular Patreon, which is our monthly donation service for other YouTubers. Lots of YouTubers use it to help support channels that create content. We're a Star Trek channel. We do Trekyards. We do Q&As. We're sort of personalities in our own right. We don't do vlogs or anything, but well, I guess you do. Well, you do. Captain's vlog.
Yeah.
Yes. But not like the
Captain. I should call it the Captain's Vlog. That actually makes more sense.
So yeah, support us there to help the channel, to see us grow, and to help cover all these great things, and do new renders for you, as all this is extra work that I wasn't just given. The model I was. Well, I had to convert it. It all takes time, guys, so help us if you can.
Yeah, we like to make work for ourselves, unfortunately. But, yeah, we do it for you guys.
So next time, guys...
ditto!
You
owe me a beer. You owe me a Romulan ale. So until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Connor Kongs.
Live long and prosper, and we'll see you in the future.
Or then back in the past.
When we discover things during our discovery.
Ship, we pass ship, we don't know. See you next time.